let's move right into what we're going to discuss today. Okay. The number one rule that I always have. Okay. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a washer, a dryer, a refrigerator, a freezer, or an ice maker. I try to avoid pulling the unit out if I possibly can. Okay. The only thing that pulling the unit does out, if I don't have to do it, it enhances my chances of causing damage. Okay. If you know me at all, you know that the one thing I can't stand is damage. Okay. I do anything that I can to prevent damage. Now, sometimes there's no way to get around it. Okay. That just plain and simple. Sooner or later, you're going to run into something. It's an off the wall thing. Okay. But we're going to have a little damage. But what happens? Okay. So damage at me being the owner of the company, you being a representative of a company or an owner of the company, okay, damage does two things to me, okay? Damage costs me money, okay? I don't care what you're talking about, it costs me money, okay? Number two, the customer will lose faith in your abilities to perform your job, okay? If you see damage, point it out. Tell the customer. Don't try to hide it. I had a guy that worked for me back in 1990. He tried to hide it, and then of course that made the customer even more mad. And then at that point, the customer blew up, threw the guy out of the house. We lost the customer. I can't afford to lose customers. That's my reputation on the line, because now this guy's gone and told all of his friends. Because I'll tell you the truth, they will tell you maybe one or two people. If I do a really great job, they'll tell one or two people. But let me tell you, if you do a bad job and you try to hide stuff or you try to cheat them, no, they're gonna tell everybody that they know. They'll go on social media, they'll trash you. Most of the time, I had a Google review, and that was one of the things that I always tried to maintain is my Google review. That'll kill you too. The other thing is, if you get the one that I had, I actually ended up having to deal with the Better Business Bureau because they filed a complaint with the Better Business Bureau. So it's not worth it. Tell the people, you know what? I'd a whole lot rather be able to defend a technician or defend myself, say, ma'am, I'm sorry. I did everything that I could to try and protect your floor. But it just didn't happen. So just go ahead and let people know. Okay. The other thing that we're going to go through now, okay, always protect your company by protecting the customer's home. That's my motto right there. Protect the company by protecting the customer's home. Okay. That's my motto. Okay. What am I doing to protect my customer's home? One of the things that I always insist on whenever I am going into a customer's home, whenever I walk in the door, I put on a pair of booties. Okay. There are all kinds of booties out there. There is everything from the one you see that has no bottom to it at all, or there's a pull off booty that has some traction that they use at hospitals for the doctors and the nurses, that have a tread so that you've got a little, in case the floor is slick, you're not slip sliding away on the floor. Okay. The other thing is a service technician mat. I always have this in my van, in my car. If I'm going to have to go work on somebody's appliance, I've got a mat. Okay. Now it may be a towel, but it's a floor protection. Okay. I have a mat, and it actually had a name of one of the manufacturers that I got at one of the schools that I went to. I wanted it as a prize. This is a great thing right here. This mat. Always have something to protect the customer's property. Okay. Don't be throwing tools on top of granite countertops, flat Formica countertops. It doesn't matter. Protect the customer's home. Think about it if it was your home. Okay. That's what I try to get all the technicians that I've ever had. Think about if it was your home. Okay. Damage to the floor. Okay. These pictures on the left side, both the left and the center, are all actual pictures from somebody that pulled a unit out and didn't take time to use floor covers. Okay. There's no excuse. Now, will something happen? There are instances where you're going to have problems, and everybody just it. Unfortunately, that's what happens. Okay, so the picture on the left is a wood floor. The picture on the right is a gouge that happened on a floor that was in a mobile home that had really cheap flooring. If you've been out in anybody's home, the flooring quality is not what it used to be. Even a cheap vinyl floor used to have some goodness to it, but nowadays it is so cheap it will cause you ill problems all the way around. And the problem with one of these is the flooring to the left. I can usually with if I have the right person doing the job, I can fix that. I can have that fixed. I have a flooring guy that I used to know that I could have call, and he could go in and fix it, and it looked as good as it did before. Okay. The one on the right, there's no help. There's no hope for that. I ended up replacing the whole floor, and that was ridiculous for that little spot. But that's what it took to take care of the customer. Okay. Number one, it's always the customer that we have to take care of. Okay. The picture on the right, there's no damage except for all the water that they have on the floor. What happens if I get water on the floor? If I've got really porous cabinets and they're really cheap, hey, I can damage a cabinet. Then I have to pull a cabinet and have it replaced. Okay, I had a technician that used to work for me in Las Vegas, Nevada, with a company that I worked for. He pulled a refrigerator and didn't tighten the water line properly. Didn't check it whenever he left. He left. The customer called. Of course, the office was closed this was on a Saturday. The office was closed on a Sunday. We didn't have an emergency contact number, which was my fault, but we ended up paying for a cabinet because it leaked around the cabinet and ruined the cabinet. So you gotta take care of people's homes. You wouldn't want your home to be damaged by somebody. Okay, so how do I protect the customer's home? All right, so how can I always protect it? Okay, the number one rule that I had. Okay, we used 2 out of the 3 of these. Okay, and then as I've got better with everybody, I had one of the one on the right. Okay, the unit on the right, the far right, is called an air sled. Okay, at some point the air sled has become a little bit more made it so you can afford to keep one with you. Like if I've got 8 technicians, I can afford to keep one. Okay, what does the air sled do? Okay, if you look, it's basically a reverse vacuum cleaner. Okay, if you look at the 2 pods, you slide those up under a refrigerator, up under a washer. You could slide it up under for an ice maker. You mash if you notice, there's a switch on the far right of that thing. That switch, you turn that switch on, it raises it inflates those bags. At that time, it lifts that unit up off the floor, and you can slide it out with one man. Okay, it's so easy. If if I have a washing machine full of water, I can inflate it, I can slide it out, and I can get behind it. Okay, I don't have to filly fart around and try to find how can I get the water out. Okay, I had a method of getting the water out of a washing machine, but this would made it easy for somebody. Okay, this is great for refrigerators, for ice makers, for anything. Okay, so the other method is the one that's in the center, and those are two thin strips. They're about probably about 8 inches wide. Okay, and you put those up under, you pull the refrigerator out, and you can get it out. The other thing that they have is a one that's a sheet. Okay, the thing that I don't like about the sheet, that I like about the one on the right side, because that's what we used to have. Okay, um, the one on the center there, you can actually roll those up and keep them in your van, and they don't get damaged. Okay, they don't scratch. They don't get scratches on the floor. They keep them, and they're good. If you keep the one on the left side, you have to ride around with that right behind the seat, because I got to protect it. Because if I just throw it down on the floor, it gets scratches, and it causes damage itself. So the one on the right is about a 3 foot wide, 30. So I think it's 32 inches wide. Maybe it's 30 inches wide by 35 inches, 36 inches. It's about a 30 inch by 3 foot, 4 foot unit. It's really good for pulling out ranges or an ice maker. Okay, so we're going to get right in now to the complaints and everything about what we're here for. We're talking today about a Whirlpool / KitchenAid under the counter ice maker. Okay, like I said, I've been in this business since 1978. I have actually worked on these for many years. Whenever I was first coming up, this is one of the things that they taught me to repair, was a under the counter ice maker. Okay, there are things today that we don't have to worry about. Thank goodness. One of the things is water that gets in between the ice maker and the like in a refrigerator, it had a pad that was basically insulation that was in plastic. Those would leak, and it would get water in it, and waterlogged, and it would cause damage to the floor and all kinds of things. So we don't have to worry about that anymore. The three complaints that you're really going to have for your ice maker, okay? Not making an ice. If it ever happens that it becomes really the ice becomes cloudy, you have one of two problems. One is they haven't changed the water filter, and two is that the water quality is just really bad. And you're going to have to get a glass of water to look at it and see, and you can tell. The other thing is you'll get them that make funny noises. Okay. One of the things that will happen on this ice maker itself, whenever the ice actually goes into the hot gas valve activates, it sends the hot gas charge through the evaporator. You can hear it crack. You'll hear cracking a little bit. You'll also hear the valve energize. You'll hear that. You'll have all kinds of funny noises. Like I had one that something had gotten in. They had been messing around, and something had gotten into the condenser fan motor in the back, and you could hear the condenser whenever it you could hear it. It almost sounded like I'm going to date myself. Okay, whenever I was a kid, we used to put playing cards into the spokes of our uh, bicycles, and it made a brrr sound, kind of cool. It kind of makes a funny noise like that. Okay, so let's go through not making ice. Okay, so as a technician, I need to know how to put this into diagnostic mode. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to take. There are two buttons. Okay, this one, the technician is using his single finger mashing it. I never had good luck with that. Okay, you have to mash two buttons, and they have to be simultaneously, and we have to hold them for about 6 seconds. Okay, so I take both fingers and I mash on the button, and I hold it, and I just wait. Okay, well, how do I know whenever I've done this? Whenever I get into the service mode, it starts to flash. Okay. As the lights flash, I know that I'm in service mode. Okay. At that point, I can advance things through the diagnostic mode to see what I see that won't work. Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to, if you look on the right thing, I'm going to press the service mode. I'm going to make one press. Okay, the one press is the bin thermostat. That's the first press that I'm going to make. Okay, you can't do that. You have to rely on the machine to tell me that the bin thermostat's good. Okay, the only way you can actually check a bin thermostat is I have to have a rapid cooling method, and I could use it to trick the bin thermostat to think that it had gotten enough ice. You don't need to do that. This will do it. So you just advance it through. I get a bin thermostat. If the bin thermostat, if the light is blinking, that tells me that the bin thermostat is bad. Okay. Then we're going to go to the evaporator thermostat. If I mash the button again, okay, it shows the evaporator thermostat. If the evaporator thermostat is good, it'll be solid. If it's not, it's going to be blinking, just like the bin thermostat. Okay. Now for the rest of it, okay, you will actually be able to hear or see or both what was going on. Okay, so next is the fill valve. So if I mash the button three times, that advances me down to the fill valve. Of course, you're going to hear the fill valve come on. Not only that, I should be able to look over through the back and see that it's filling up with water. Okay. If I don't have it filled with water, okay, I know that I have a bad fill valve, and I have to go discover why I have a fill valve. The only other reason you're going to have a bad fill valve is somebody has turned the water off. I've been through that. You just have to make sure whenever you go that you got both power and water. Okay, so you're going to go and you're going to listen for that fill valve to work. If it works, we know that the fill valve is good. Okay. The next is the circulation pump. Okay. So the circulation pump now goes, and you can hear the circulation pump come on. If something happens and you don't hear it come on, and you look and there's no water coming across the top, then I know that I've got a bad circulation pump, or I've got a bad board, or that it's not the pins in the back on the Mullinex plug have come out. Okay, you're gonna as you get to be a technician, you're gonna learn to look for silly things like that. Okay, there's nothing worse than pulling a unit out and finding out that it was a bad Mullinex plug connection. Okay, you want to make sure that you do all of that before you pull the ice maker out. Okay, the next one. So I've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the drain pump. Okay. Once the drain pump comes on, you'll be able to hear it. You'll be able to hear it, and you'll see it. Okay. So you'll know that the drain pump works. If it doesn't, then I'm going to have to check the drain pump to see if I've got power to the drain pump, or if I've got a board issue, or if there's a Molinex plug for that. I'm going to have to check for the Molinex. Okay. So if I'm checking any of the last two, there's a Molinex plug. I can just unplug it and go ahead and put my two leads in and check it. Okay. If I go to the sixth one, that will actually have the compressor will come on, the condenser fan motor will come on, and the recirculation pump will come on again. That's on the sixth one. Okay, so you can use this to check for your airflow. You can check for your compressor kicking out on an overload. The if something happens and the hot gas valve needs to be done, you have to actually put it into a harvest to get the hot gas valve to come on. Okay. If so, I think that the newer model, I was talking to a guy and he said that they actually had put that into the diagnostic mode now also. So there will be a seventh one, and that will be the hot gas valve. You'll have to check and your service manual or your customer information manual, easy for me to say, to find out if that's correct. Okay. Once again, this is all done from the front of the machine. I don't want to have to pull the machine. Okay. So, like I said, I can repair basically these four items from the front of the machine. Okay. I can replace the bin thermostat. I can replace the evaporator thermostat. I can replace the water pump, or I can replace the cutting grid. Okay. The water pump is the most difficult thing to replace about the water pump, and I didn't put the water pump into this, is getting the trough to drop. Yeah, it used to be much easier than it is today. Whenever in the old units, they had wing nuts, and you just twisted the wing nuts out, and you could do them and it made it easy. Today, they've all gone to a 1/4-inch nut driver. So now you have to have your magnetized nut driver. You have to hope that it doesn't that it is magnetized. Some of the new ones, they're going with a cheaper thing. Let's stop right there for 1 second. If something happens and you have a non-magnetized screw, I'm going to tell you how to fix this. Okay. If you have plumber's putty in the truck, take a little dab, just a touch, and put it inside put it inside your nut driver. Okay. It doesn't matter what size, but you can use that. You can use a piece of gum. I have not had either of those, and I have used a piece of paper and tore the piece of paper off. All I'm doing is getting something to hold that little that screw in place. Okay. With a nut driver, you can get this all done. Okay. But what I can do is I can replace the bin thermostat, the evaporator thermistor, the water pump, and the cutting grid. Okay. To replace the board, the light, or almost all of anything that has to do with the electronics, you have to remove the top of the unit. That's where they're all housed. Okay. Use the following steps to make any checks or replace most of the electrical components. Okay. So if you look right here, I'm going to have to remove these 4 screws. I'm going to take just a minute and I'm going to interject something. Okay. If I don't change the water filter whenever the light comes on to tell me that I need to replace the water filter, I could have issues going down the road. Okay. We're going to go through and I'm going to show you how to get the board replaced. One of the things that you have to do to get to the board is drop this water filter cartridge housing. Okay. Just have that in mind. Okay. So, like I said, you have to remove this. So I'm putting my protection down on the floor to protect the customer's floor. I'm going to have to very slowly slide it out, hoping that I can get to the back where the water line is and the drain line. Okay. The hardest part about putting one of these back in is if they have just a condensate drain line, is getting that drain line put back into place. Okay. That's the hardest thing about this. I am not kidding. Sometimes you have to be a regular magician to get them for it to work. Okay. And I have tried all kinds of crazy things trying to get it to work. You're going to have to find out what works best for you. Okay. So getting back, I've now gotten everything and I pulled it out and I've got this unit sitting in the floor. I have 4 screws that I have to remove to get to the top. Okay. To get it open. Okay. So I'm going to remove those 4 1/4-inch screws. Okay. And then at that point, I can actually lift up on the lid. Okay. Once I get the lid out, I can now remove those 4 screws for that water housing. Okay. So this is the filter housing that I have to remove the 4 screws on. The one thing about it is I've got to do this if the customer doesn't change that water filter often enough, I may end up having to go in and blow it out. And if I have to blow it out, I have to remove the unit out. I have to take and there's water lines underneath that I didn't take pictures of. But the water lines underneath, I may have to disconnect and blow through and remove the little piece for the fill valve that it goes, so that I can blow all the way through to get any of the carbon from the water filter that's left. Okay. But finding back to the board, there are 4 screws. Then once I have removed and lifted that top up, I'm going to need to remove these 4 screws for the board to get them. Okay. Once I remove those 4 screws again, plus the 4 screws for the housing, I can now get to the board. Okay. Like I said, the board is this guy was lucky. If that was plugged in, he could have gotten a shock. Okay. So you want to always remember that if I'm going to check something, before I actually check anything, I need to unplug the machine, turn the water off, both of them. Okay. So I've got to do that at the very beginning. Most of the time, you're never going to find which of the switches in the box are the ice maker, because 9 times out of 10 they haven't gone and written it in the box, or it's on another circuit which is not supposed to be. This unit is supposed to be on a designated circuit. Okay. But lifting this up, what do I have in front of me? Okay. I can look at the Molinex plug and I can see where the Molinex plugs go. Okay. I got access to the light. The light is they have a light up on the top that I can change if it goes bad. It's an LED light. I can get to the transformer there because on 99% of today's units, they all have a low voltage or a step down transformer. Okay, they all change voltages from 110 to somewhere between 4 to 10 DC volts. Okay, the cutting grid runs on DC voltage. Okay, the thermistor runs off DC voltage. The bin thermostat runs off DC voltage. You need to know what these are and you need to check them. You need to make sure that you go onto the website, look at this model, find your information on what the voltages are, because it may be different depending on which model you have. You have to know, so you have to consult the service manual to know all of this. If you don't have a service manual, usually you can find it online if you got the model number. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about today is we're going to remove the cutting grid. Okay, to remove the cutting grid, I have to take 2 screws out of the bottom. Okay, those two screws hold a little plastic cap that you can see that holds the cutting grid in place. Okay, after I remove those two little screws, okay, I can pull that cover off to access the cutting grid. Okay, I have to be very careful whenever I'm pulling those 2 screws off, because one of the things that is sitting right there, okay, here's the Molinex. Or maybe I didn't put that picture in. I'm sorry, I took it off. Okay. One of the things that you can damage is the bin thermostat. So you have to be very careful when you're removing these covers and sliding this grid out. Okay. So whenever I walk into the customer's house, one of the things that I'm going to look at, okay, is to see if the complaint is no ice. Okay, which is what we're discussing right now. What we're going to talk about the rest of the program is has been no ice. Okay, so it could be one of 3 things. Okay, it's either your water circulation pump. Okay, it could be your cutting grid that's bad, or you could have a bad drain pump because the water backs up and you can't get it to you can't get the water out, so you'll have water sitting in the bin whenever you get there. Okay, so the other thing, like I said, the first thing that I do is I put everything into the diagnostic mode. I run it through, see what it is. It's a whole lot easier today than it was back then, which is not really. It was pretty simple back then. But you go and you run it through diagnostic mode. I do all my checks. If I can pretty much pinpoint where I'm going to need to concentrate my efforts. One of the things that I can do, though, whenever I'm just pulling it out, whenever I'm opening the door to look, I can see if the grid is bad by just looking up in between the grid and the top of the unit. I can look, and there'll be sheets of ice that are stacked on top of each other, and the only way that they're having that they're working through is they're just melting. That's all it is, because the grid is not warm and so it's not cutting the ice. So they just back up. You may I have seen it so bad that it had backed all the way up and had caused the water to just go over the top of the whenever the circulation pump came back on, and it thought it had dispensed the sheet of ice. It would back all the way back up. It would start to freeze again, and it would run all the way down and melt the ice. Okay, if I came in and I didn't see that it was cut all the way, it wasn't cutting the ice, then I would that's something that you're going to have to check. Okay, if I have the ice stacked on top of each other, I'm going to have to check for my DC voltage, and then I'm going to look for a broken wire or something that's broken on the cutting grid. But I need to do all of that before I do anything else. Because if I have to get to the components that I'm going to have to get to, I'm going to have to remove that cutting grid. So be very careful that you don't damage the cutting grid. That'll cost you $100. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take these two screws out. You see them right here. They're one on both sides. Okay. That little grid I can pull out a little bit. Then I've got to do is unplug this Molenex connector. So if I'm going to check and I'm going to see voltage, if I've got voltage coming to it, then I'm going to unplug that Molenex connector, and I can take my probe leads on DC volts, and I can check my voltage right there. Okay. Now I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to talk to you. Okay. Does anybody have any question? Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to give you a couple of seconds here. Okay, I got my cup of coffee. I got a little something in my throat, so it kind of makes my throat not itch. So we're going to keep moving on. Okay, so now we're going to talk about. Oh, look, I did put it in here. I just put the slides got mixed up. So whenever I go to remove that cutting grid, there's that bin thermostat. Okay, I have got to be very careful because I can ruin that wire right there. That cutting grid, believe it or not, they've gotten better, but they used to be manufactured by Schick razor blades. If you didn't take care of them, they would cut you. Okay, so you're gonna have to be very careful of this wire as you're removing that cutting grid. Okay, so the water filtration system. Okay, this is one important thing that you have to be very careful of with your filtration whenever you're putting water into this machine. Okay, do not use water that has a microbiological unsafe or is unknown quality without adequate disinfection before or after as it goes into the system. Okay, so what does that tell me? Okay, if I'm on well water, I need to have my well water checked. Okay, if something happens, I can cause a bacterial infection in somebody, and the last thing I want is for my friends or somebody have that bacterial infection. Okay. Here's what we were talking about with this water filter. It's just like one on an ice maker. This thing is so simple to use. It beats the way that we used to use the filtration. We used to actually, whenever I first started, we put it in a cabinet right next to the ice maker, so that we had a water filter on the unit. you always want to have a water filter to kind of cut down on some of the things that we put in the water, like chlorine. Um, the chlorine. The last thing you want to do is taste chlorine whenever you put ice in your mouth. So here's the like I said, this is they want you to purchase the approved water filter. By the way, you can buy them at Encompass Parts. Encompass has water filters for these. Okay, they have most every part that is ever needed for this. Okay, so what kind of parts do I have? Okay, I've got A, which is the cover. B is the O-rings that I have to have for the filter. Then I have C is the alignment pins to put this into the place. And then I have a little arrow on it that actually shows me whenever I've locked it into place. This unit will not operate unless it is unless this pins are locked into place. If they're not, it will not work. Okay. So the filter component located in the right side of the ice maker controls. Okay. It's showing right here. If you don't have this locked into place, okay, it will not work. The ice maker won't work. Okay. Turn that filter clockwise. If the filter is not correctly locked in, the ice maker will not produce ice. Okay. Now we're going to talk about cleanings. Everybody, this thing has to be cleaned once every 6 months. Every manufacturer recommends cleaning. You're going to have to pardon me. On here, they just tell you to use any kind of cleaner. So once again, you could use this Scotsman clear cleaner in there, or you can use one from any of the other manufacturers. Okay. So let's talk about the cleanings. The ice maker system and the air-cooled condenser need to be cleaned regularly for the ice maker to operate at its peak performance. Okay, so like I said, every 6 to 9 months, you have got to clean this thing. Depends on if you have animals in the house. If you have animals in the house, you're gonna that shed. You're gonna have to clean it probably at least every 6 months to keep it in its optimal unit. Okay, so I can wash any of my exterior surfaces with warm water or mild soap or detergent. Okay, do not use any bleach in the interior part. I can wipe down my surfaces for this unit that we just displayed. On the outside, I can use a stainless steel cleaner for the outside of the unit. If it's a white unit, I can wipe it with just about anything. 409. I can use Dawn. The new Donna is great. So I can do anything on the outside. Now, whenever I get to the inside of the unit, okay, we're gonna have to be very careful on the inside of the unit. It has to be sanitized. Okay. So I'm gonna have to have a sanitizer along with my cleaner. Okay. So number one, whenever I get ready to clean this unit, okay, I'm going to take and use 16 ounces of approved ice maker cleaner. Okay. If I'm gonna order it, just go ahead and order it through Encompass. Okay. I'm going to press the on off button. I'm going to wait 5 to 10 minutes for the ice to fall into the storage bin. Remove all the ice from the storage bin. Unscrew the drain cap from the bottle of the water pan located at the storage bin as shown, and allow all the water to drain completely. Okay, I'm going to press the clean button. See, so the clean button will blink. It indicates that the cleaning cycle is in process. When this cleaning cycle is complete, the light is illuminated approximately 70 minutes. The cycle is complete. During the cleaning cycle, the system will both clean and rinse itself. Okay. After the cleaning cycle is complete, remove the drain cap from the water pan. Look for any cleaning solution that's left in the water pan. If the cleaning solution drains from the water pan, you should clean the water. We should use the clean cycle again. Be sure to refill the water pan with water before starting the clean cycle again. Okay. Be sure to replace the clean cap to the water bottle, to the water pan. If the drain cap is loose, water will empty from the water pan, and you will have either thin ice or no ice. Okay. So if I have a whole lot of scale build up, you will probably have to clean this thing twice. Okay. The customer is supposed to do this. 9 times out of 10, the customer will not do this. Okay. They figure that they're spend $2,000 on it, it should just run. Well, it doesn't work that way. If you come in and it's dirty and you have to clean it, then you have to charge according to what you as a technician charge for cleaning ice machines. I mean, like you've already seen, this is about an hour process. Okay, for me to get through this thing, make sure that it's all done. If I have to put water back in and go through it again, you figure I've spent another 10 or 15 minutes. So we're now looking at an hour and 15 minutes. I don't know how you guys charge. We charged a trip charge and then an hourly labor rate. Some people charge by the job and they just give you a flat charge for what it is. So, cleaning an ice machine in today's market, I'm looking at probably 150, 175. If I'm giving them a flat rate, I'm going to have over an hour at this call. Now, one of the things that I can do while this thing is running through the cleaning cycle, okay, I can use my time wisely. I can pull this unit out a little bit. I can use the coil. I'm sorry, I don't have to pull the unit out. It's already out. It's not already out. I can do all of this from the front unless I have to get back to the very back side because it's super clogged. But what I can do is I can for the dirty or clogged condenser coil, what does it do? It obstructs the proper airflow, reduces the ice making capacity. Okay. It cuts down your ice production, is what it's saying there. Causes a higher than recommended operating temperature, which also can cause your compressor or condenser fan to go bad. Okay. So what I'm going to do is the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these screws, okay, out of the lower access panel and the 2 screws from the base grill area from the front panel. And then I'm going to pull the panel forward to remove the lower access panel. Okay. Once I remove the lower access panel, okay, you can use a vacuum cleaner to clean this. If I use a vacuum cleaner, you have got to be not using anything but the little brush that they have that has hairs on it. You can't just run something up and down it. You'll destroy the condenser coils. So at this point, now you have to go in with your thin comb brush and clean every one of those. And the customer doesn't like it whenever you're doing that. Okay. If the customer's done it, hey, then I'm going to have to charge you to straighten the coils. Okay. So I'm going to remove the dirt and the lint from the condenser fins. If this is done properly, you should never have any problems. If you're doing this every like 6 months to 9 months, you should be fine. Okay. Replace the lower access panel using the 4 screws, and then once I'm done, I'm reconnected to the power. Okay, so I just plug. I don't if I'm doing this and it's in the clean mode, I ignore this bottom one because I can do this while the ice maker is cleaning. Okay. All it's doing is circulating the water around. Okay. I don't have to worry about anything else. All right. I am going to make sure that I get this thing clean. If I have to, I always carried a can of compressed air with me, and I could blow through the fin coils if I thought that I had an obstruction. Okay. If you Word of warning, if you do that, you're going to have dirt and dust and everything else blow out the back side of that. So you need to be prepared for that. Make sure that I'm taking care of my customer's home. Okay. So, does anybody have any questions? Well, as always, thank you for your time. Please be safe out there.